Okay, this is your lecture for substance use disorders, or SUDs, substance use disorders. It doesn't actually matter what the substance is that we're talking about. So we could be talking about alcohol, we could be talking about opiates such as heroin or Oxycontin, painkillers, those kinds of things, or we could be talking about marijuana. It doesn't matter the substance, the criteria is actually all the same. Now in this category of disorders, it's all about substances with one exception, and that is gambling use disorder. Again, the criteria is very similar to substance use disorders, but it's one of the only behavioral disorders within this category. So for this lecture, I'm going to focus primarily on what the criteria is so we understand that, but then I'm also going to talk a little bit about treatments and what the most effective treatments are for these substances. Again, it doesn't matter what the substance is necessarily, so we're lumping alcohol and drugs and everything together. So criteria, the most important criteria when we talk about substance use disorders is that it impairs the functioning. So when you look over the list of different things that could be possible in terms of criteria, a lot of us would be like, oh, well, if I drink, I do that, or I do that, or sometimes I drink more than I meant to, and sometimes I build up a tolerance. Oh no, I've got a substance use disorder. The key is, if it's not impairing your functioning, if it's not maladaptive to your life in any way, then you don't have a substance use disorder. So although impairing functioning is a part of every single diagnosis, it is the key to substance use disorders. So in addition to that, you have to have 2 or more symptoms, and they all have to be within 1 year. So it can't be over a lifetime, but in 1 year you exhibit 2 or more symptoms. And there's actually 11 possible symptoms you could exhibit, so I actually just categorized them. We have 1 cognitive symptom that you could exhibit, and that basically is craving. Craving the substance. So you're sitting at work, you're not doing anything, and you're just wanting to have that substance. You have that craving for it. There are 2 physical symptoms. One is tolerance, and the second one is withdrawal. Tolerance means that you have to have more and more of the substance in order to have the same effect. So for most of us that are of age, we have drank alcohol. It is a legal substance once you're 21. And the first time you take a drink, it doesn't take a whole lot for you to feel those effects of alcohol. But the longer you drink and the more often you drink, you need to drink more in order to have those same effects. That is essentially tolerance. Again, for those of us that have drank alcohol, most of us have talked about building a tolerance, so we're familiar with that. Withdrawal symptoms mean that your body reacts negatively when it doesn't have the symptoms. So the symptoms, or when it doesn't have the substance, excuse me. So withdrawal symptoms are, I haven't drank today, but my body is reacting really negatively to it, and I need to drink in order to get my body to feel better. Severe drugs, such as heroin or other opiates, cocaine is one of them, where your withdrawal symptoms happen very quickly. And so once you start using these substances, you need to maintain this use because your body reacts strongly to not having them. So those are the 2 physical symptoms. Then there are 8 behavioral symptoms that could be part of the criteria. These include things like not fulfilling your social responsibilities or using more of the substance than you intended to. I'll just go out and have a beer and you have 3 instead. And it could be related to things like spending a lot of time and effort in order to get those substances. So you spend all day in order to find 1 hit of heroin or something. So when you look at this, there's 11 symptoms, 8 of them are behavioral. So this is primarily, when we think about the criteria, a behavioral type of disorder. It's the behaviors that we see that really exhibits the use disorder. Finally, we can separate them into mild, moderate, and severe different types. So if you have 2 or 3 symptoms, it's just a mild case of substance use disorder. 4 or 5, moderate case. And if you have 6 or more of the 11 possible symptoms and it's impairing your functioning, then this is a severe case of use disorder. The last thing I really want to mention when it comes to this chapter is the treatments. All of the treatments that are mentioned in the chapter, for the most part, with the exception of the biological treatments, are cognitive behavioral. They're looking at both your thought process, how you perceive things, but also your behaviors. This makes sense. It's a behavioral disorder. So when you look at all the different treatments, think about how they are a little bit different. They're all cognitive behavioral, but they're all a little bit different in terms of how they're trying to adjust your behaviors and how they're trying to adjust your thinking.